Hi guys, quiet down. Our guest speaker hit a snag today, so I will be your guest speaker. I haven't gotten a chance to talk to you guys about my career path, how things have worked, and kind of what I've done. So I'll start there. Who knows what I do for a living? Anyone?
Jordan, circuit designer.
Circuit design, right. So right now, in addition to being CTO of Blue Stamp, I have a company, Young Circuit Designs, where small companies call me up and they say, hey, I've got an idea. I want to do something like blank. And I say, okay, I know how to figure out what it is you need to do based on current electronic components and the current technology that's out there, how to do it for cheap. I can design it for you, I can prototype it for you, I can test it for you, I can build it in my lab, and then I can set you up with contract manufacturing so you can order 10,000 of them and make a bunch of money on sales. So that's what I do for the electronics industry. It's a great job, it's awesome, I get to set my own schedule, take clients or pass on clients depending on if I have time or if I have the ability to meet their stuff. But I want to talk to you guys not about where I am and kind of what I do. I can talk to you individually if you'd like about my current job. Instead, I want to talk to you today about how I got there. Because it's tough to start your own business. It's tough to run your own business. It's also tough to be just an engineer in general. So I started when I was in high school, actually maybe a little bit before. I worked with X10. Does anybody know what X10 is? No one? It's kind of, yeah?
Isn't it a plane?
No, I wish. X10 is home automation. They make modules where they turn lights on and off, fans on and off. They control thermostats. You walk into a room, it has a motion detector. You can plug it into a computer, so it can all be computer controlled. That in the 1990s was like a big deal. So when I was in like middle school and I was in high school, I had a bunch of those X10 setups, and I had it plugged into my computer, and I programmed them, and I did all kinds of stuff so that I had like a keychain module and motion detection and timers and sun sensors, a bunch of different things to make my room automated, including all the way up to like drapes controls. So that was neat. That's how I got into it. I used that to get into the engineering program in my high school. I went to a public high school, but it was a really big public high school. There was like 3,500 students. So they had enough money to pay for an engineering lab where I got to go take engineering classes, which is like, it was like engineering 1. So it was like fluids and just basic fluids and build stuff. And at the end of the semester, there was a competition. The school had a bunch of leftover toilets, like big old style 20, 70-pound toilets that they're like, here's $100, go, whoever launches the toilet furthest wins with the catapult. So we built a catapult. I can't believe they let us do this. We built a catapult with these garage springs with a 10-foot long arm. So this huge arm that launched catapults. I got second place in that, which is garbage because a little piece of ours got further than the other. Anyways, that was kind of a cool outlet for me, and it was a fun thing for me to do. And then I was able to use that to get into independent studies. Anybody have independent study at their school? Yeah, maybe half of you. So independent study, if you don't know or you don't have it, you should ask about it. Independent study is basically, hey, I took this engineering class. You've seen me work. You've seen that I don't need to be like harped on every day. You don't need to check on me every day. Can I study some topic under you, and basically you and maybe one other student work with the teacher one-on-one for an hour a week, and all of your time is spent doing whatever your project needs. So you're expected to, on your own, develop something, do something, research something, come up with a paper, and then for like an hour a week, your advisor sits down and they basically, like we do at the end of the week, we sit down with you for like 15 minutes. We say, hey, what have you done, and what are you going to do next week? And that's it. And so with that, me and a buddy built a little robot to go to a national competition in robotics and compete against everybody in the country. which is great. That was before FIRST and BEST and all these different robotics programs, so it was like smaller community then, but still, it was cool. We won, which is nice because that makes for good college essays, right? You win the national competition, you get recognized in Washington, D.C., that's a big deal. So you go and you can take that to college and say, hey, I'm interested in engineering, this is what I've already done. Let me in. So then I got to, and even further, give me a scholarship, right? I got to Case Western Reserve University in Cleveland, Ohio, the great state of Ohio. And I got my undergraduate degree. And as I went along, I was getting good grades. I wasn't getting stellar grades. I was like, 3.5 student, 3.5 out of 4.0. So that's certainly good, especially at a school like Case. But I wasn't the top of my class. And then when I was in my junior year, I found out they have what's called a BESMS program. Who's familiar with these? Anyone? No one? Not really? It's where they take their undergraduate, the BS program, and their master's program, the MS program, and bring it into one. And what's really special about this is you get to do things called double counting classes. So they're like, well, as part of your undergraduate degree, you took this class, but it was a graduate level class, so we'll count it for both your undergraduate and your graduate degrees. So they make it so that you can get your undergraduate and your graduate degree inside of 5 years, which is what I did. So I enrolled in that. You have to enroll early, and you have to have good grades. You have to get approved and all that kind of stuff for it. But I enrolled in that, and then I found out about the CoOp program. Who knows what CoOps are? Yeah.
It's like where you go out and work in a company that's nearby your college. You go for like 1 semester, then come back, take a semester classes, go take another semester of work.
Yeah, but on top of the semester of work that you take off, you take a semester off of school, but you also get the summer. So you really have 8 months to work at a place. It's different from an internship in that in internship you only work at a place for a couple months, maybe 3 months, whereas a co-op you get 8 months. And the thing is it takes time for a company to trust you to actually do anything worthwhile. So the first couple of weeks they had me doing like microphone testing. I literally took these little microphones similar to what you guys use here, put it in a stand, and then hit enter on a keyboard and go whoop, and then I'd take it off the stand, and depending on its outline I would put it in a different file. That's what I did for like 2 weeks straight. I still hear that noise in my head in the speaker thing. It was in this big chamber. So you have to, I like to call it, you have to eat garbage for a while so people know that you'll actually come in and do work. But then once they're like, oh, so you did well at that, maybe you can build a box that'll test these build a system that'll test these microphones automatically. Or they're bin it automatically. So then I got to do something a little bit more interesting, And so when you get 8 months of that, by the time you leave, like I was designing circuit boards that normally an intern would not be allowed to do. So, so I did a co-op, which is great. And then by the time I was ready to graduate and move on to my master's, that extra 1-year master's, the company that I co-opted with, AudioTech, they're like, hey, why don't you just do your master's at night and come work for us full time? We'll pay you an engineer's salary because you have a degree now. So we're going to give you an engineer's salary. We'll also cover part of your master's degree, whatever you're doing at night with that. Why don't you come work for us? Which was awesome, right? You get a job like that, job offer like that. You don't have to do like a million interviews. You don't have to stress about I don't have a job after college. You don't have to do that stuff. So I got that job. I worked there for a while. That company got bought, moved to a different city, so I moved to another company nearby, Keithley Instruments, doing electronic design, and they beat me down so hard technically in like a good way, similar to how we beat you guys down. That's what they did to me when I was a new engineer. So all this cool stuff that I know how to do is thanks to AudioPack, the first company I worked for, giving me the independence, and Keithley beating down on me to do some crazy measurement circuits and really pushing me technically to be good. And then from there I worked for a startup. They went out of business, and I was like, it's not fun when a company goes out of business. Maybe I should start my own company and serve startups independently, which is what I've been doing since. The reason I wanted to tell you that big long story about how I got from where I was to where you are today to where I am today, the theme there is I was using things from before to get to where I wanted the next step. So if you look at my progression from X10 to engineering class to independent study to the robotics competition to college to the master's program to the co-op to the job to the other job to independent entrepreneur, that is all a stepwise thing. You take one of those things away and the whole deck of cards could fall down. So you want to think about, when you're sitting here today in this class, or when you're done with Blue Stamp, or when you're trying to get into college, you want to think about where you're trying to get to, what you've done in order to get there, or if you have time, what you can do in order to get there to support this stepwise thing. Nobody starts as a high school student and does nothing for 10 years and then ends up running their own company or being the director of engineering somewhere or leading up some sort of research environment at a college. Nobody does that. Everybody has a story just like I do, where it's been step by step by step by step. And so what we always want to tell you, and the reason we bring a bunch of these guest speakers in here, is we want to impress upon you how important it is for you to take each step at every opportunity you get. While it looks like not a big deal today for you to, yeah, I'm going to do this program, it's going to be cool, but then I'm going to walk away. That's not the right way to think about it. You want to think about it as, I did this at Blue Stamp, it was cool, it showed me I want to do electronics, robotics, computer science, mechanics, whatever. So now what can I do next? And then how can I use my Blue Stamp experience to let me into that program, to get me the scholarship I need, to give me the experience I need to go to that next level. Everything's stepwise and everything is sequential. So think about that. When you're sitting there working on your projects, you're like, oh, I got my LED to blink on an Arduino. There's like 3 million people that have done that. That's not a big deal. But really, that is a big deal. 3 million out of 7 billion or 5 billion or how many people are in the world today, that is a big deal. And so it's a step in the right direction. It's not, now you're not one of 100, you're one of 3 million or whatever, but still, you're on your way to be one of 100. And that's a direction you want to take. So I don't want to talk to you guys too long. I'd instead like to open it up to questions. Anything you guys have in terms of what I've done, how I've gotten there, where I've been. If you have any questions about what you want to do, how you can get where you want to go, anything at all. Yeah?
What did you declare your major as?
Electrical engineering. I wasn't sure about that. I was between electrical engineering and mechanical engineering, and I still took some mechanical engineering classes as an elective. But X10 was electronics, and the thing that interests me about the robot that I did in high school was electronics. I wasn't too into the mechanics of it. I mean, the mechanics was fun, but it wasn't as interesting. A lot of people say electrical engineering is one of the hardest things you can do in college. Like electrical engineering gets made fun of a lot, and biomedical engineering gets made fun of a lot because they're supposed to be like super hard or whatever. Boy, I didn't think so when I looked at all the mechanical engineers that had to take like, they called it Math 5, but it was some crazy math class, or when they were taking thermodynamics, or when they were taking fluid mechanics, or any of that other stuff. I was like, man, I'm so glad I don't have to sit here and calculate how water flows through a pipe. I'm not kidding, that's fluid dynamics. How does water flow through a pipe? Like, it's fastest in the middle and slowest at the wall, so you have to calculate the gradient, and there's some integrals involved. It's a big mess. I wasn't into that. So yes, while electrical engineering is super hard, and I had to do like spherical integration around an antenna to calculate the electromagnetic field that's being permeated, like I had to do my own crazy little whatever. That was more interesting to me, so I found it easier, even though maybe other people would think it harder. Yeah. Yeah.
What do you think of people starting companies or right out of college or dropping out of college?
I love that question. So what do you think of people dropping out of college and starting a company, or leaving college and starting a company immediately? There's a lot of people that have been successful doing that, and there's no reason you can't be successful doing that. If you have the drive, and if you have the motivation, if you have the access to capital, there's no reason that you can't do that. And I think it's a great idea. It's extremely risky, the first thing, because if you screw that up, then you're a guy that failed at a business with a high school diploma, right? And that's not a very nice place to fall back on. Whereas, I had 5 years of experience when I started my company, So at any point in time, I could then like, nah, this isn't going to work. I'm going to go get a desk job again. So my fallback position is better. The other negative is like I would never have been able to graduate college or leave college and start a company because the value I bring to companies is a technical nature. I'm not particularly personable, certainly not relative to some of my colleagues as entrepreneurs. I'm not as outgoing. I'm an introvert, right? It costs me, right now it costs me energy to talk to you as opposed to gaining energy when I talk to you. That's the definition of introvert versus extrovert. So like if I have a bunch of talking engagements, I have to go home and sit in my lab and have a couple quiet days to kind of recharge. Still working, but that's just who I am. So for me to go and leave college and be the personal or passion engine behind the company and being able to broadcast that probably wouldn't be a good fit for me. Although some people it is. So for me, in order to provide the technical experience that a company needs or the technical value that a company needs, I fall back on that Audio Pack and Keithley experience that I have. So being a CTO or being the technical consultant to a startup, if I didn't have those 5 years of experience and now 5 more as a consultant, if I didn't have those years of experience to fall back on, I would not be nearly as fast or as effective as I would need to be in order to give the value that I need to get. So I'd be a bad candidate for it. Now on the flip side, there's reasons you should be able to do it. First, you can live extremely inexpensively when you're a 20-year-old person. You don't go to bars and spend a bunch of money. Like I have a wife and a kid, guess how much those cost, right? And you don't need it, like you're happy living in a closet somewhere as long as you're running your own business. You can eat ramen all the time and not get fat, right? These are the nice things that you have about a 20-year-old that a 30-year-old like myself doesn't, I don't have those benefits. So it's a great position to be in. The other thing is you have way more energy. You can run and try a bunch of stuff. You don't have any expectations at that age. You can run out, try things 100 times, none of them work, and the 101st thing you're just as happy to try as you were the first one. So there's pros and cons to finding your way. If you want to strike out and run your own business, finding the right time and the right opportunity. And that would be the last thing, the opportunity. So if you had a killer opportunity when you were 20 to partner with somebody who's going to do really well, that might be better than waiting until you were 30 and trying to force it with an opportunity that's not as good. So identification of opportunities and assessment of them. How good of an opportunity is this? Is this a long shot? Or do I really think that it's got some legs to it? That's actually probably more important than anything. Do you think it'll work? If you're 20 and you don't think it'll work, it's a bad idea. If you're 30 and you think it won't work, it's also a bad idea. It's all about opportunity. That's a good question. Yeah, Tom.
What advice would you give for people who aren't really sure what type of engineering they want to pursue, or if they are drawn to multiple different types of engineering?
Yeah. So Tal was asking if you're what advice do I have for somebody that's looking at different engineering options, or if there's many that somebody is drawn to, how do you pick one? My answer is always start trying stuff. So you being a second-year Blue Stamp student, that's exactly what you should be doing. You're trying to figure out, okay, in your project this year is significantly different than last year. Last year was a lot of mechanical stuff, and this year it's a lot more electrical, certainly more electrical. So you're trying different things, and that's really what you want to do. If you can find a way to get, if you can find something that you identify as like, this is something I enjoy doing, and then you can back that up with people pay others to do this job, do that as much as you can and as much as your passion would allow. So if you're looking to do a lot of different things, like, well, I'm interested in biomedical, I'm interested in electrical, I'm interested in mechanical, then try and find something to do that encompasses all those things. Or try one thing that's mechanical, one thing that's biomedical, and one thing that's electrical. Or chemical, or whatever, civil, whatever different things. You want to just give it a shot. And it takes a bunch of time, but to be honest, right now, when you're your age, time is cheap. Every year that goes by, time gets more expensive. You guys can give up an hour of TV or an hour of sitting on Facebook or whatever pretty easy. Whereas when you're in college, it gets harder, and when you have a job, it gets harder, and it just continues to get harder. Also, the benefit goes away. The earlier you know what you like, or the earlier you're at least walking down a path that looks like something you want to do and that somebody will pay you to do, the better off you are, because that's more experience you have. You know, people always talk about when they're picking college majors, oh, you can change it any time. What they don't tell you is if you change when you're a junior in college, that you're tacking on at least a year, probably 2 to your undergraduate career. So that means you're probably going to be paying somewhere between $20,000 and $60,000 more for your degree, and you're also going to be missing out on a couple years of work. If you're an engineer, right out of college, you should be getting somewhere between 50, 80, 90K, somewhere in there. So that means your 2 years extra spent in college is going to cost you somewhere between $100,000 and $200,000, plus the 20 to 60 in tuition. Right? So there is a cost in decision. You want to bear that in mind. It's all about, to me, it's all about picking a course and correcting. Even if that correction sends you in a totally different direction, at least you have some experience, some capability, some something under your keel where you say, I know that I don't want to do that, so I'm going to move over and do this other thing. Questions? Who else has a question? No? I can keep talking at you. I can give you other advice. Yeah?
Back in middle school, when you first started to do like, you know, those like room modifications and everything, like, was it hard for you to like start to get into like engineering stuff, or just kind of like?
Yeah, they were pretty good. I mean, that was, the difficulty of that was equivalent to the difficulty of Arduino. So they were pretty good about getting like, instructions, just like Arduino has tutorials, and then I could take what they gave me and kind of make it my own. So they said like, here's how you implement this sensor, and I was like, I wonder if I can implement that sensor, but with this sensor in this specific other way. So it wasn't tough. I mean, and it's the same way we've set up BlueStamp, is we want to give you the ability to get started with like some example code or an instructable or something like that, and then we expect you to take that and move beyond it. So I guess it was a similar experience to what you guys are doing now. And I didn't have, you know, I had internet back then, but it was on like a dial-up modem. You guys even know what those are? Yeah. Right? 56 baud. I mean, there's no hope of doing video. You couldn't even stream audio. You couldn't do anything. Like, you could really get web pages and download files, and that's about it. So there weren't as many forums, and there were forums, there was internet chat boards and stuff, but they weren't as widespread and ubiquitous as they are today. I mean, we were searching, we weren't even using Google, we were searching on Alta Vista. You guys even know what that is? And Google didn't exist yet. So the information that I had available to me was different than what you did today. And still, even the information I had then was still 100 times better than the people that were doing stuff 20 years ago. They had to straight go to the library, like with their legs. What is that? Yeah?
So then how did you start BlueStamp?
Well, we'll save that for Robin and I give that presentation at the end of the program about how we started BlueStamp. So I'll save that for when Robin's here, because we both have, while we both did it together, we both have different people. Yeah?
Did you ever have an opportunity to do something more spontaneous and like not be on such like a more rigid path when you were going into the field and everything?
I guess at what phase? Like, you're talking middle school, high school, college, master's degree, working?
I guess in general, high school and out, going in like college.
Yeah. So in high school, I had that independent study class that I took. And the engineering class before that was pretty open form. But I guess, you know, thinking back, I think most of my high school and even a lot of my college career was set. You know, like 90% of my academic path was set. I guess I could pick different classes, so like, do I want to make my elective economics or psychology? Right? I always had those choices, but as far as like you guys have infinite freedom here. If you come in, or when you came in, you're like, I want to do this project. Some of you even defined your own projects, which is unique. and you should grab onto that. I know it's a new experience for you, but the preset path is only a valid way of living in school or in a job that doesn't offer you much responsibility or challenge. So like you can go work for a company, even as an engineer, it's possible to be an engineer that needs to be told what to do. You'll never make it that high. You'll always make a good living, and it'll be, some people really enjoy being able to go to work, do what they're told, go home and do what they want. Like that's a good life for a lot of people, and that sounds great. Not for me. I like to be able to have a little bit more control, a little bit more responsibility for the problems that I'm facing, and the different things that I want to, the different methods that I choose to solve the issue at hand. So yeah, it's probably, my high school and college career is probably what you guys will face in terms of you need to go out and seek the opportunities like BlueStamp that allows you to open the playing field. Yeah. What other questions? No, I got one more thing. Oh yeah.
Was there a certain time or moment in this whole path that you felt like quitting?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Man, are you kidding me?
Which was the most significant one?
The one that always jumps out at me is when I was getting my master's degree. So let me paint the picture of my master's degree for you. I'm working, making a great salary. I was living in a mansion with 4 of my best friends on an acre of land on Lake Erie. So we had our own private beach. 2 miles down the road, there was a dock with my 20-foot ski boat with a small block V8. It was just gorgeous. And I had, on the property, I had 2 kayaks, a canoe. One of my roommates had a nice fishing boat that we could go catch walleye on Lake Erie. I'm a big water sports guy, big swimmer and everything. I had a ton of friends and lots to do for fun. And here I am going to class 2 or 3 nights a week to get a master's degree that may or may not increase my salary, may or may not increase my ability to get a new job. And while it's cool and I was doing project-based stuff under a really clever advisor, you know, I was like 22. Guess what a 22-year-old wants to do with boats and beaches and a house with a bunch of friends, right? So I was sitting there and I was like, I can quit this right now. I can quit my master's degree right now and have a great time for the next couple of years. But by then I was so close to finishing, I had like 3 credits to go or something, and I was like, what kind of loser gets within 3 credits of a master's degree and walks away because he wants to go on his boat and water ski when this lake is flat, right? So that was temptation. Not, I wasn't running away from the master's degree because that was cool and it was fun to do, but I was definitely running towards something. So that's an example where it was very clear to me that I definitely want to quit right now. But I mean, that's what losers do. Is they start something and they don't finish it. It's like, finish it up, loser. So yeah, I didn't do it then. In college, you'll hear a lot of people talk about they were in engineering classes and they switched to business because, you know, it's kind of similar, I guess, in mindset. You're always solving problems, different problems, but you know, it promises a career where your problem sets and your solutions are wide open, right? And you don't have to cut open people and deal with gooey stuff. So that's that was a decision that I made to continue going to electrical engineering, and there were a lot of times that I thought about quitting. I remember my freshman year of college. So I took calculus in high school, differential calculus, so first semester college calculus, and I got like a 5 on the AP exam, so I could have skipped out of the first semester of calculus and taken another class or done something else. And I thought, you know what, I'm not going to do that. I want to, college is supposed to be hard, so maybe I'll bolster my GPA. Plus, the teacher that was teaching calculus in the first year, he was doing it when we were in high school. So I was like, well, it's probably be good to learn this really well. Calculus is critical for electrical engineers. I'm going to go to college, I'm going to take that class. Plus, it should be an easy class.